Jay Morris. Well, Coach, congratulations to you and the team on the two big wins against Boise State. What's your main takeaway from those two games, besides the W's? But what was your takeaway on the team's performance in getting the two wins against Boise?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on this morning. It's always a pleasure. A big takeaway from that game is that our team knows how to deal with a little bit of pressure. Several games ago, Coach Dutcher, I know he's our head coach, but I'm starting to think he's a philosopher. He put together a plan that we had to win a certain amount of games in a row going into Boise, and that was placed in front of us. And our guys stepped up with whatever pressure was placed on their shoulders. Was able to deal with some adversity and come out with W. So as we're heading into some important games coming up, it was great to be in some tough games against good teams, put in different situations and seeing our guys coming out on the positive side. So I think it was a great weekend for us.
Hey, Coach, Brian Dutcher mentioned in the post-game press conference that it's probably the most yelling he has done this season for a game. And obviously the type of season you have, there's a lot of yelling and a lot of cheering. But that type of yelling and cheering where you really feel confident that momentum is in your favor, what's that say about the makeup of this team right now with one game to go in the regular season heading into that Mount West Conference tournament?
Well, it says a lot about the makeup of our team. The one thing that Coach Dutcher has said and everybody has said is that we're old. And so I don't think there's anything that these guys haven't been through. And with Coach Dutcher yelling, it felt like that arena was packed the other day. That's how intense those games were. And I think that was the only thing that we were missing was the Viejas crowd. That would have been awesome for everybody to be a part of. But, again, our team is a veteran team. A very unselfish team and a team with very high IQ. So whatever situation they're put in, I think they can thrive.
Coach, the Saturday victory against Boise was old school Aztecs. Was not a good shooting night at all, and you still survived because of defense. In other words, the Aztecs did not shoot the ball well. Boise shot it worse because of your defense out there. Talk about the challenge when you get these kids and you're trying to develop a certain mentality about playing defense and how important it is, because defense never has an off night if you bring your A game defensively. But how tough is it at the collegiate level to sell kids on the importance of playing tough defense?
I think it depends on the situation you're in. The situation here, Coach Fisher and Coach Dutcher have built a program that has been built on defense. So I think if we tried to trick a kid and say you're going to come in and get this many amounts of shots and this is how we're going to play on the offensive end, and that's all we talk about, and then get them here and try to get them to play defense, I think there would be issues if that's the way that we approached it. But anybody that comes on a visit here, pretty much anybody that answers the phone when we call, they know that's the first thing that we're talking about. So if this is the school that they choose, they know that that's going to be what they're going to have to do to get on the floor. So with the way we recruit, we tell the truth. And with the history that this program has developed behind it in terms of the mentality on the defensive end of the floor, I can't speak for everybody, but for San Diego State basketball, it's not hard at all.
Well, one of the guys that had to learn Aztecs defense in a hurry is Terrell Gomez. And look, his shooting has been as advertised. I'm sure you guys would like him to have to take a few more shots because he is that kind of a shooter. But talk about him at the defensive end. He's an undersized kid, obviously, but the challenges he faced joining a veteran team and try to adapt and play within the essential game plan at the defensive end.
Well, he's not maybe that big in stature, but you can't measure the size of anyone's heart. And he has just as big a heart as anybody I've been around in college basketball. When he first got here, he had to definitely learn the principles that we were employing to play on the defensive end. And so now, as time has gone on, he's been able to pick it up. If you just stare at him on the defensive end, now compared to when he first got here, it's night and day. And the one thing that I can say about him is everybody in his corner, family and mentors and things like that, if they were giving him a different message than we were giving him, it would probably be a different, difficult challenge for him. But they're telling him the same things that we are. You know, you've shown your whole career that you could be a great scorer, but if you want to be a great basketball player, you got to play on both ends of the floor. And we're telling him that, and his family is telling him that. And he's a young man that, when you tell him something, he stares at you and listens, and he tries to go do exactly what you tell him to do. And it's starting to pay off for him on the defensive end of the floor, as well as it's starting to pay off for us because, people are trying to find mismatches, and he's able to guard people that, they think they have the advantage, and it turns out to be our advantage.
Aztec assistant Jay Morris with us here on the morning show. Coach, last year going into the tournament that we didn't get to see, March Madness, despite his medical conditions, Nathan Mensah, we were going to see him play. I believe he was just okay to start playing as we were going to embark on the NCAA tournament. We haven't really seen him take over a game, I think, like he did last year when he was in there. Where is Nathan Mensah at when we're speaking on defense?
Well, people say, Nathan has to be better. Nathan, what Nathan does is Nathan can guard the other team's point guard. And he got switched off on the guards at Boise State's team a couple times, and they couldn't score on him. So to me, as talented as an offensive player that he is and can be, his biggest value is being a versatile defender. They threw the ball into the post. We can single coverage on the post, which means we can stay home with shooters on the perimeter. You may look at the stat sheet after the game and see he's only scored in single digits and may not have a ton of rebounds, but there is definitely parts of the game where he is dominating the game, and it's probably not noticeable to the common eye.
I know it's difficult to compare teams, especially at the collegiate level, year to year, because you get such a turnover in personnel. But just in the brand of basketball this team is playing right now, as opposed to a year ago at the same time, a team that started 26-0, is it comparable right now, Coach? Or are there still things where this team is either ahead or behind where the Aztecs were at this time last year?
Just like you said, it's hard to compare. I mean, last year we had a first-team All-American on our team, Malachi Flynn, who ended up getting drafted in the first round of the NBA draft. The way the coach called the plays last year is different than he's calling the plays this year. This year, any given night, we have a guy, a different guy that can put up double figures in the scoring column. So I think, sometimes we get off to slower starts. We got to figure out who has it going that night. And last year, we kind of knew that Malachi was going to have it going every night, and we had to go figure out the secondary guy. This year, we're going to figure out who the primary guy is each game because we're, that talented and we have that much depth that it takes a minute to get in the groove. And like I said last time I talked to you guys, when the game settles in, I think we have just as good a team as anybody.
Coach, what are you looking forward from the team on Wednesday against UNLV? Obviously, I'm not saying you're looking past the Rebels, but are you going to be doing some things that might prepare you heading into the Mountain West Conference tournament next weekend?
One unique thing about this team is that they don't take anything for granted and they don't have any off days. So, some people may look at this game and say, yeah, we got to start doing things to prepare for what's in front of us, but the group that we have doesn't think like that. Like, we're going to get on the floor today, and they're going to practice today as hard as they did play against Boise State and as hard as they're going to play against UNLV. That's just the way that they're wired. And so the sign of a good coach, which Coach Detcher is you got to let the players lead a little bit. And so that's the kind of group that they are. They're a player-led group. They give it their all every time they step on the floor. So I don't see anything coming up on Wednesday that's out of the norm that what we've done or what we're going to do in the future.
Coach, back when this team lost those 2 games at Utah State, the fact that you now control your own destiny, you win on Wednesday, you win the Mountain West Conference regular season championship. Talk about how you got here after those 2 losses against Utah State.
I just said a player-led team. The players they had a meeting amongst themselves. I mean, I think we were close when we lost to Utah State. Matt Mitchell didn't play in the second game. We had a lead coming down the stretch. Guys are now embracing it and thriving in the moment. I think before, with Matt Mitchell being there all year, that that may have been a blessing in disguise that he missed that game. That forced other guys to step up. When your number is called, you got to make a play. And so we weren't that far. We came out with L's on that trip, but guys saw the importance of thriving in the moment. And I think that's what you're seeing now. I mean, Trey Pulliam has had some monster games. When the time is called for him to make a play and it's not a pass, he has to be able to make it. And he's been making that play. And I think that has all come from the conversations that the team had amongst each other about being aggressive.
Well, Coach, 10 wins in a row. That
awesome.
is impressive. Playing your best basketball at the absolute right time. Good luck on Wednesday against UNLV. And by the way, Coach, I don't know if you know this, 13 days away from Selection Sunday. I know you're just focused on UNLV, but March is here, Coach. This is the best time of the year. March Madness is around the corner. So we'll talk to you down the road. Thanks so much.
I appreciate you guys having me on. Talk to you soon.
All right, Jay Morris joining us there, San Diego State